Hey everybody, welcome back to Five Boys in a Business, a podcast where we talk about our business, the family, and the many shenanigans involved. You can catch us most Mondays between 10:30 and 11:30 live. Sometimes we do remote or Zoom podcasts and pre-recorded podcasts. But today we are fortunate to have a live podcast with who we call the elders.
The elders.
So I'd like to welcome all of the elders to the podcast. These are my father's siblings that we have here with us today. So we're super excited. So thank you guys all for joining us. If you're watching live, I'm not sure how your screen looks from home, but if you guys could just wave when I introduce you, that way people know who you are. So we've got my dad in the upper corner, Steve McCracken, and then Jackie McCracken's in the upper left-hand corner. Then we've got Janice below Jackie. I feel like it's Brady Bunch. And then we have Nancy in the middle. Give us a shout, Nancy. Yo, yo. There you go. Okay. And then Harry's underneath that. Okay. And then there's Marilyn below Nancy.
Hey.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. So I think, I don't know who came up with calling you guys the elders, but I think it was Amy maybe. She gets blamed for a lot of things, but I think it really was her who came up with calling everybody the elders at some point in the past.
It wasn't any of us that started calling us the elders.
You didn't deem yourselves that? Oh, gosh, yeah. I think once both Grandma and Grandpa had passed away, then I think that fell to you guys, the title of being the elders. You carry it well, so... not because you look old. I'm just saying that you have a lot of experience. So you're
sure.
Life experience. So do you want to start out today?
Sure. We have a few questions for you guys, and we wanted to just kind of start off with something general. You all are very close despite your variance in ages. What events and or influences led you all to remain close during all of these years?
Who wants to go first?
Can you please repeat that, please?
Repeat
sure,
the
of course.
question.
And
Okay.
more slowly. For
Okay.
those of us who have hearing.
Okay, no problem. You all are very close despite the variance in your ages. What events or influences led you all to remain so close during all of these years?
Let me say one thing. We did a lot of things together. For example, what do I want to say? We prayed the rosary every night, kneeling in the dining room where the Blessed Mother statue was. We did it kneeling. Dad was the only one who sat there because he had worked all day. But then after Grandma Turk left us, we convinced Mother that we could pray the rosary as we did the dishes. And Stephen always swept the floor and took out the trash, and Janice washed, Jackie and I dried, and Marilyn didn't do anything, which was just usually typical. But we did a lot of that together.
You left out the boys. What did the two youngest boys do?
Johnny and I, we didn't do anything because we were too damn young, and I don't remember praying the rosary.
Well, then when Christmas came, the three of us, the girls, would sing Christmas songs. Anything we could remember, we sang all kinds of Christmas songs. Do you remember that, Jackie? Singing the songs while we were doing this? Oh my goodness. Anyway, so
And we didn't pray the rosary every night, I don't think.
Oh yes, we did.
No, we prayed the rosary in May and October because those were devoted to Mary.
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong about that. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's what I remember. Your memory, you have other memories than I do, Nancy, so. I don't know. Do other people remember that? We didn't pray it every night.
No.
I think that would have been totally burdensome.
We did it during October because it was the month of the Rosary, and then May for the Blessed Mother.
Yes, I grant you that. Okay.
I don't remember kneeling and saying it. I remember just doing it during dishes.
Okay.
No, yes. I remember the Blessed Mother statues.
Yeah. Right.
Sure.
And it's interesting because you brought up, Jackie, you said somebody else's memories, you have your own memories, which is interesting because that is something I find with my own sisters, that they'll remember all these things and I'll be like, that is not even like on my radar, or something that I remember us doing or participating in or whatnot. And so it is interesting what people attach to as far as that evokes that kind of response, so for everyone, it could be different potentially, definitely, for sure.
I will remember saying the rosary, like Nancy said. I don't remember the duration or time period, but I do remember my chore was to sweep the floor, but I was always in a hurry to get out the back door to shoot baskets with Frank and Jim Velicon. So I would do a quick job out the back door, only to have Mother yell at me, "Steven, get back in here. There's food all over the floor." So that's my memory of those times.
Yeah. Funny. We did so much together. At Christmas time, Dad would take us, we went downtown and we went to the Ayers windows to see the Christmas decorations that they put up. And we went to Blocks and Watson's. I mean, we didn't do anything fancy like they have now. Like you can go visit Santa. We didn't do anything. We walked outside. Dad always, as we rode along, we would pass the VA hospital, and he always told us, "That's the hospital I built." And so I guess doing those things together helped us be together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do any of you remember Eddie Foy and the Seven Foys?
Yes.
And going to the movie? Mother got this great idea that we would all go down. There was an ad in the paper that said anyone that has 7 children can come and get into the theater and watch Eddie Foy and the Seven Foys. Isn't that the name of it? I think it was.
Yes, I think so.
So
remember that movie.
Mom and Dad did something they never did. They packed us all into, I think it was a 49 Ford, maybe, a 49 black Ford. We drove downtown, and Dad and Mom and all of us paraded up to the front of the Circle Theater, right on the Circle. And of course, the lady didn't have a clue what we were talking about, what Mom and Dad were talking about. And Mom insisted she saw the ad, never cut it out, but saw the ad. So here we were, Mom and Dad and 7 urchins standing out in the street, waiting. And finally the manager came, and finally the manager said, what else could he do? He had to let us in. So we got in and watched. Do you guys remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
I don't remember that.
Mom was just beside herself. She couldn't believe it. She knew she had seen that in the paper.
Yeah. We did simple things. We didn't do, they'd go to Uncle Frank's Tavern, and they'd probably get arrested for child abuse now. Leave us in the car.
Child neglect,
and there was a window by the tavern, and it was great. Uncle Frank would hand out whole bottles of pop. We never got a whole bottle of pop at home. And snacks while they sat inside drinking beer. Grandma would go with them too. It was little things like that.
Orange soda pop and root beer.
Yes. Yeah.
But I just want to say.
Yeah.
I just want to say, your question begs the thought from me, as to how we have grown older. How have we stayed together as we have grown older? And I know a lot of families with this large number of siblings who, their families are broken up. There's a lot of dissension in the family. And I think that, we have tried to stay together, I think, because, we've had get-togethers, we've had family get-togethers, as we've grown older and have included next generations and the following generations. But it's interesting because our life experiences for each one of us has been different. So, you know, how do you stay together when your life, like my life experiences are totally different, you know, from my siblings. But I think that there is a bond there probably that started from our parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jackie,
yes,
you're
I would say
bringing up a good point. You know, I think about that, and some of it has to do with just simply location.
Yes.
You know, we've all lived relatively close together, except for Marilyn and John, who are John Doyle, who live in St. Louis. And but then, besides living near proximity one another, you know, the Christmas party we have annually and have had for years. You know, sometimes it might be annoying to get it all together. Sometimes it might be so noisy nobody could know whether you're coming or going. But you know, that does pull us together one time a year, the entire family. So that's what, 60, 70 people.
Yes.
You know, it's a pretty big undertaking. You know, that begs the question what we're going to do this year with COVID-19.
Our kids are in charge, but we haven't, they talked about it a little bit, but that was before COVID. So
yeah, I'm not sure. Well, anyway, that's another for one of our Zoom Friday meetings.
I don't even know what we're going to do as a family, you know, yet. So Sandy said if we have to wear hazmat suits, we're going to get together. So So who knows?
I think that does speak to, you're right, Jackie, your parents, and then what they were able to impart as far as what's important, you know, in people's relationships. I think that even though people may be located near one another, a lot of times you don't see people taking the time to spend time together, you know, or assuming that potentially everyone is still going to be present. You'll get to that eventually, you know, and I think that that's something that you guys have done a good job of staying connected to one another, but then also involving your extended families. So even for your families there that then get together, they still have a connection as well, which is impressive, you know.
We've been very fortunate, I think, as a family, everybody, all our nieces, most nieces, and at least not picking up on that. And the greats, and you know,
I think I give a shout out to Zoom, because over the last 6 months, spending every Friday for an hour and a half chatting has probably, in my opinion, given us better insights into one another and how we think about things like racism, how we think about issues. You know, we don't get too much into politics, thankfully, but has given us a chance to perhaps understand each other a little bit better. Huh? What do you think?
I would
definitely. I agree. I mean, I think Mom and Dad laid the basis. I think we continued it with the going to the race, as well as, like you guys said, with the Christmas party, but going to the race, Indy 500, all those years. And now that our kids are older, they've kind of carried the base, and carried us through, like Missy organizing the Zooms and them, you know, communicating with each other as cousins, not all the time, but like they get together like they've never been apart, you know, kind of thing. And it's so I think that they've kind of helped us to carry it through as well. The closeness and things.
I would just say too that when we were having children, going to school, having children, we weren't as we didn't communicate as well together during that time because we were all so busy with our own lives. So at the Christmas party, really brought us all together.
Yeah.
So we saw how each child had grown. So that was a big, big thing, as well as the 500 parties that we've had. But as we've gotten older and we've had more time, it's been, it has brought us together even more so, I think.
So you guys have said periodically, each one of you have talked, at times about not growing up with much, but feeling like you had a lot. What were things that your parents talked about or did that inspired those types of thoughts?
They never told us that we didn't have a lot of money. You knew that by seeing the public that had things that you didn't have, and you never questioned that. We felt the love in the family, which I still feel the love of all my brothers and sisters. And Miss John daily, and he's been gone for 15 years. And I had to mention him because that's what his request to me was, that he be talked about after he died. But I remember being in high school and being cold and delivering newspapers. And we got home, Johnny and I, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and we were getting ready to go to school. And Mom said, now's the time to give them the coats. We got new coats. They had hoods on them. They were down to our knees. They were all wool. And Johnny and I were walking to the bus stop and looked at each other and said, wow, isn't this great? I mean, for the first time that day.
The bus stop, that when you were going to Cathedral then?
Going to Cathedral,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
We
I think it was a
We never wanted for anything. I didn't.
but it was a simpler time. It was a simpler
Exactly.
time. And so our country, perhaps our world, has grown much more materialistic, much more consumer oriented. And it wasn't that way when we were growing up, I don't think.
Well, Jackie, you're exactly right.
And I don't feel like there were people who didn't live in Hawville, but my girlfriends, that didn't live in Hawville, but I never compared myself. They didn't have as many siblings in those families, but I don't know. Go ahead,
But
Steve.
it was interesting. Hold on one second, Dad, because the one thing that is fascinating is that the family really never blamed someone else. Like, it was always you're going to be your own responsibility for figuring out how to get what you wanted, which you spoke about a lot when we were growing up, Dad, that you did this so that you could do this. You did this so that then you had this opportunity. And so it was never that it was that, you were, it was because of someone else's, you didn't have that demeanor about yourselves, that it was, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like
Victimhood.
That you were victims of, like Harry said, you knew it, that you may have had less than someone else, but you also knew what was going to be required to get you where you wanted to go, it seems like.
No, we had people who supported us.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All of my siblings had people who supported us throughout their entire lives.
Yeah.
All of us. We could not have done it without that support.
Right.
We could not. If we were on our own individually, we could not have done it.
So what do you mean by support, Jackie? Like, for example, what support are we talking about?
I'm talking about Betsy. Mom and Dad babysat Betsy, right, when she was a baby, Stephen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that correct?
Sure.
Nancy,
Okay.
Mom and Dad helped you out. Harry, I helped you out, Harry.
Oh yeah, all of that, absolutely. I think that's what's so remarkable about the family. Yeah.
It's
And it's a great example for everybody else. I think that's the other thing that the cousins realize is that it's an example, so it's an example of how to lead your life, of how to be supportive to the rest of your family. I think that's something that each one of us, I think, if you were to ask each one of the cousins, would say, this is something that we've learned, and watched and witnessed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Richie.
Yeah.
having married into this family, how do you see us? I'll put you on the spot.
Boy, we talked about this the other day, and I've always been struck by, actually, from the first time I met you guys, Christmas of '94, the closeness and, like Jackie says, the support structure that everybody has, and that close relationship that everybody has with one another. And I think a good foundation, I think, is one of the things that I was always struck by, and it's influenced the family that Emily and I have created, and hopefully influence our kids to create a similar type situation. So
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
The other thing is our religion, our church played a big part in things that we did.
Yes, that's true.
It was very, very important. I can remember in the summertime going to church and singing in the choir with whatever nun was playing the organ. And there weren't that many people in there, but I did that every morning. We did so many things, roller skating. We had CYO softball, CYO football, everything like that. Church dances at the church. So in many ways, I think, Jackie, they supported us in a lot of ways. The church,
Sure.
Father Hunter.
Sure. I mean, I think when we were growing up, like you said, church played a huge part. Schools played a huge part. You know, it takes a village. It does take a village.
And don't forget the Slovenian National Home played a part.
Well, that's true too.
That's true.
That's very true.
I can remember when I left the convent, Daddy and I walked down the alley to go to the Nash for a beer. And we got down to the Nash, and I swear it was the same people that had been there 6 years before, sitting at the bar I just had to laugh to myself. Nothing had changed in those 6 years.
And Uncle Frank was there at the tavern, tending bar for many of those years. Sure. Yeah.
So I mean, Hallville was a community with the church, with the Nash, with the neighbors. I mean, it really was. And I think that is something you can find that in neighborhoods sometimes, you know, but with the population being so transient, I think that those having that support system or having those opportunities are fewer between, you know, far and fewer between. It seems like they're harder to find. I mean, or to feel those types of connections, of course.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
That's true.
So what's each of you, what's one of your favorite memories of growing up? Together. Or by yourself? Or before everybody else came to
For me, coming in second in the Star, and it was the Indianapolis News then, spelling contest, and Daddy took me down to Minatel's for my very own chocolate soda.
Nice.
That's always been. I still have the newspaper articles if you'd like to see them. I got beat some nerd from Sacred Heart who wore glasses.
Oh gosh, I love it.
Most of my favorite memories, I would say, center around the Indianapolis 500. I remember the time that, and most of it had to do with Dad's boldness, if you will, to finding ways for us to get into the race. We seldom paid in those early days. I remember the time we put Grandpa McCracken's 1942 Chrysler in the line, and my friends stayed in it overnight, and maybe I think Janice, you and Nancy joined us at the track, but myself, Pete Scanlon, Joe Leone, we stayed in the car, snuck in the trunks of cars, did all sorts of things, but Dad always had a clever way, and we never saw it as being, I don't think we ever saw it as being dishonest. It was just a case of being clever. We were just being clever and seeing how you could get in and who you knew. So a lot of my memories go to the 500. Sure do.
Well, back then too, we knew a lot of the guards.
Sure.
They were from Holy Trinity or from wherever, and so they'd let you in too.
The Kodamaz family.
Yeah.
Well, some of my memories, I can remember Dad doing making popcorn, and we all we went in the green station wagon to drive in movies. And Mother, they would make popcorn, one for the back row, the middle row, and the front row. And the milk, our milk, what do I want to say, container was where we could put our cold drinks, because we didn't have a cooler like we have now.
Yeah.
And we would sit in, and Dad, when we would get up to the window, he'd say, now you guys, you scooch down so they don't know how old you are. So you look lower than you are. And he always did that. And
that incidentally was a 1956 Ford front, what was the name of it? Fairliner, I think.
Oh,
a beautiful lime green with wood paneling on the side. Yes.
Yes.
I don't
You
remember.
could get a mile away.
Dad wrecked that car. Honestly did. Guy pulled in front of him and he T-boned him and destroyed the car. Remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I don't remember that.
He was coming out of his driveway or something, wasn't he? Or...
No, it was. I think it was down on Belmont Street or someplace.
Oh, really?
It wasn't at home. Yeah, it wasn't at home. Yeah.
No, I don't mean that, but I mean, wasn't it at the man's home? The man was pulling out of his
Oh, it could have been.
driveway
Yeah, I
or
don't know that. I don't
something.
remember that fact. Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Could be.
Yeah. That's the only time I remember him having an accident. Go ahead, Harry.
I remember Janice fixing pizza on Friday night and making sure she put salami on it to make it. It was a Chef Boyardee pizza. Do you remember that, Janice?
Kind of. I was always working. I don't remember things that you guys remember.
Also was going to the drive-in for the first time and watching Ben-Hur with my older sister Janice. She drove, and we watched Ben-Hur with Charleston Heston, and it was at the Claremont Theater.
Yeah.
Drive-in.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Marilyn.
Okay, well, I guess probably my favorite memories was Mother cooking on Sundays. I always looked forward to that. She would go to church, and then usually she would always make fried chicken, and she'd always make her cakes from scratch because they didn't have cake mixes then.
Right.
Every Sunday we had cake, coconut marble, chocolate chip, chocolate. I mean, every Sunday. Did she make one or two cakes?
She made two cakes because Johnny didn't like coconut.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
So that's I can still see her, picture her frying that chicken, and we would go. Dad would take some of us to go see his mother at the nursing home, and we'd come back and we'd have our lunch. Then that just always has been a good memory for me.
Right, Marilyn.
Yeah, and we always hoped that those boys wouldn't eat all of the cake so we could have a piece for breakfast on Monday mornings.
Yeah,
but that did not happen
remember.
too
That's
often.
what we had for breakfast on Mondays.
Monday, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So I guess my favorite memories are the drive-in movie theaters. Those were always really a lot of fun. I was a library nut. I walked to the library, which was like, I would say at least, a mile from our house?
Yeah.
It was pretty far.
It was probably 7-8 blocks. Yeah, it's close to a mile.
And I would get my books. And I remember going to church too, Nancy, during the weekdays, and we would sing. We had music for weekday mass, and it was Latin masses. So we were singing. Well, it was a small group of people, and then Mom would always send me to Armanoff's to get donuts. Armanoff's was right across the street from the church.
Yep, right across the street, right across St. Clair.
Yes. Yeah. And so I would come home, eat the donuts, and then I would flop. I have memories of this. I would flop on the couch and read my books.
Oh,
whatever my book was.
Well, we all went to the library, I think. What always
Yeah.
Mother encouraged us during the summer to walk. We walked to the library, and the smell that would be in the library of old books was still there. Anyway, I can remember Mother then eating her words, because then I would sit and be reading and she'd say, "Put that book down. I need you in here. You need to help me do something." And I say, "Mom, you wanted me to read. Well, read me." And so it was just always a back and forth with Mother. But I'll tell you another thing Mother encouraged us to do. The girls, she would say, "You cannot depend on a husband to make your life," how'd she say that? So that you could live your life. You need to learn skills of your own so that you can be independent, so that you can support yourself in case something happened. Now, there were only so many choices we had at that time: a teacher, a nurse, or what else was there? A teacher, a nurse, a secretary, of course. So that's why, I mean, she really stressed that. So that's why we took typing and shorthand. We all had our own jobs, that we were able to get jobs. I worked between my junior and senior year at a lawyer's firm, at an attorney's office with Judy Schooley. And Janice, I know you did that too. And so anyway.
So did I.
Jackie did too.
Yeah, I did
Jackie?
Too.
At Cox and Cox?
I worked downtown for credit lawyers. And then I worked for Fox and Fox, and they had moved. They were not downtown any longer.
That's right. They were out on Southeastern or someplace.
Yeah, someplace. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't work.
You didn't?
I did work. I think I worked at Ellis Ayres for like a year so that I could buy clothes and get a discount.
There you go.
My favorite, my favorite memory, which I've probably told many times, but I need to put it on this tape so it's recorded for posterity. After my 8th grade, Dad went looking for a job for me. Walked down to Tony Bonich's at King and 10th, Standard Oil Station. He talked to Tony about giving Steve a job. And Tony said, times were tough. He couldn't really afford to hire somebody right now. Dad said, "That's okay. You don't have to pay him." I worked the entire summer without receiving any pay. I learned to pump gas. I learned, and I cleaned the bathrooms and I cleaned the oil pit and all that kind of stuff. And I also learned to drive a car, believe it or not, from that gas station. Delivered a car home to one of the patient clients. Those were the good old days. At the end of the summer, Tony Bonich said to me, I never forget this. He says, "You've been a good worker. You've been a good worker. Here's a little something for you." I opened the envelope. It was a $100 bill.
Yeah.
Never forget that. a $100 bill. That was like I died and gone to heaven.
Your own savings account all summer. There you go.
Wow.
Just putting the money away for you.
But who would send their kids to work without getting paid?
Keep you out of trouble. That was probably the reason.
That's the motive. Keep me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Keep busy. Yep. Well, I worked also in 7th and 8th grade cleaning a house in Speedway, the Stevens house.
Yeah.
And they 2 girls, 2 boys. And at times I had to babysit for them as well as clean the house. And you know how much money I made a day? $3.50 for each day.
Nancy, and I had to go and help you on occasion. You may not remember that, but yeah, just a few days. I remember going to Charles Stevens' house.
Yeah.
Right there at the park in Speedway. Sure do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is when I became a freshman, I was still doing it, but I had a boyfriend who lived right across from the park who had a pink convertible. And so they had big picture windows in the dining room and living room. And so I'd hurry up through the back of the house and get to the front so I could see if he left, and sometimes he would leave. I could see the pink car pulling out of the driveway, and so I would run outside and wait.
I think he drove up to the house on Hot Street,
Yes,
didn't
he
he,
did.
Nancy?
Oh, yeah.
That caused quite a stir. I think that caused a stir with Dad particularly.
Oh yes, yeah. You know what the boys would say? Kids, the guys from Speedway and Holy Trinity. It's if you take Nancy home, you got to be careful because her dad might be out with a shotgun on the porch.
Oh, really, Nancy?
Yes, yes. They always said that.
I think, did John come by that naturally?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I remember when Paige was in high school and he said the first date she has, I'm going to have my rifle right on the dining room table so they can see it. So.
Oh, John.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So of grandma or grandpa, which one do you think had the biggest sense of humor? Like, where do you guys, were they both, or were they both very serious?
That's a good.
Our parents.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
I think
When Dad would do. Go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to say, I think they both could chuckle and have a good laugh, but I think Mother had the ability to laugh at herself. I'm not sure Dad did.
No, he did not.
I think that.
But
too.
I think Mom did.
Agreed.
I remember.
I agree with you.
I think Dad, after he would have a few beers down at the Nash, would come home, and after Johnny and I used to go and get him, we used to come home and we used to wrestle on the living room floor. And he and Johnny and I, we tried to pin him down and we couldn't pin Dan down. He would get us one of us in a headlock and then the other one in a headlock, and beat our heads together and say, "How does that feel?"
Oh gosh.
That was a good one. We laughed, and Mom would be on the couch saying, "Harry, you're going to hurt him. Harry, you're going to hurt him."
I think that between the two of them, Daddy was 7 years younger, but I always felt he acted like he was 7 years older than Mom. And Mom liked to have a good time. She really did like to have a good time. And I remember when Aunt Louise died, we were kind of planning their 90th birthday party. And she said, well, that Louise didn't want to have that party, so she just decided she's going to up and die. And so she died at Easter time. And so we never did. Well, we did have the 90th anyway.
Mm-hmm.
All the Zoris told us we should go ahead and do it, and we did it at the park. And
yes.
Johnny and I lit 90 candles outside. Yeah, we did. But Mom was always... Well, that's why she got married at older age. She was too busy partying.
She was, you're right.
Yeah, she did. She partied a lot. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
There he is.
Oh, there's Tom. Hi, Tom.
Oh, hi. Hello, guys.
Tom.
Steve, yeah. Hi, guys.
Emily.
How are you?
You're looking good, Tom.
Hey, we're just trying to hang in,
Janie called.
Yeah, she's on here.
Oh,
Something that I was going to say too was,
Janie.
when we were talking about as adults, our bond as adults growing older and having different
Zoom with
different
Are you okay?
ways of life or whatever, is that our spouses, those of us who had spouses, have really kind of gone along with us and put up with us.
Right.
And have been very gracious, I think, about it.
Okay.
Jan and Chris, Jack also really, and Tom and my husband, so I mean, while we've had our ups and downs between all of us, we've all, I feel like, have respected each other and for the greater good, and our spouses have enabled us to do that also. So I think we need to be thankful to them.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that's important that you guys have demonstrated is that although you can have a wide gap potentially in differences of opinion, that you're still able to be around one another and love one another and support one another, have conversations with one another, even though you may not agree, on different levels of different topics. And I think that's important because I think that's getting lost in today's world where people can't have differences of opinion and then not be, abused for said opinion, no matter what the topic is about, and so I think that's something that you guys have been able to, like Jackie said, all of your experiences have been different, but yet at the same time have been able to connect with one another and find something that you can stay connected with each other, which I think is a great example for everybody in the family, Missy said that grandma had to have a important sense of, or had to have a sense of humor to put up with Grandpa, John, and Harry. So she was voting for grandma, I think, as far as having the sense of humor. Yes.
Yes.
No, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah. Jessica has written in and said that this explains a lot about why we are all very hard-headed. So when talking about grandma teaching us all that we need to be our own independent people as far as women goes. So, yeah, there you go. That explains some of that too. So, do you want to ask them?
One thing I should say too, when we were growing up, almost everybody around us were still in the same, as far as making money, houses, we never looked at it as if we were poor. But everybody around us in the Sylvanian neighborhood were also in the same boat as we were. Yep. There were very few. There was like Uncle Joe Zori. He was an accountant for a big firm. And they built a beautiful home on Concord Street. They were one that was completely different. Charlene Toth down the road, I used to envy her. She had her own bedroom with pink bedspreads, 2 twin beds. Well, of course, we never did that. But I never, I guess I never was angry about it or upset about it. I just enjoyed being where we were. It was a simpler time. So,
thinking about life back then, I remember Mom when she needed something special for one of our birthdays or whatever, she would get herself all dressed up and she would walk down the street to pick up the bus at 10th Street and then ride downtown. And she would always, as she was leaving, she would be saying, and the reason I remember this, of course, she would say, "Now, Stephen, Janice is going to be the boss. Follow what she says. Do you listen to her?" And that has always held true all these years, because I was the one that was the rebel rouser usually. But in any case, if you look at those days, there wasn't a shopping center anywhere, anywhere in the country.
No.
There was the first shopping center that was the Eagledale Plaza that came in off of Lafayette Road. But,
yes, that's right.
It was all small little stuff. And you're right, Nancy, everybody was in the same boat. We all had our own gardens. Everybody grew their own vegetables. And they, if you had a peach tree, you shared the peaches with other people in the neighborhood, so it was a different time,
Yes.
Much simpler time.
I have a question for you, Stephen. I don't remember you as being a rebel.
I don't either.
I wasn't a rebel. I was just always in trouble.
I don't even remember that. That's just weird.
Yeah. Well, I was out of the home pretty early.
Pretty much.
19, 18. I went off to school and, so.
Yeah, I guess. So, regarding mother's shopping trips on the bus, I remember watching for her. From our house, you could look at the corner and see the bus stopping and her getting off the bus so that we could report to everybody that we
Mother was on her way
because she was coming home. I don't know what the heck we were doing.
Well, she always had orange slices.
Yes, exactly.
Always had the orange slices.
And those coconut. She had that coconut candy.
Coconuts were good.
You know,
with the layers.
Peanut butter.
Yeah.
Something. Was
Or
it
those
like a peanut butter?
Those peanut butter nuts, like.
No, she's talking about the it's got coconut covering, pink, white, and brown.
Yeah.
Yellow.
Oh, those two. Yeah.
Those were
But the orange slices were the big thing.
Oh yeah,
And
always had them.
She'd always count out how many each one of us could have, because you couldn't have as many as you wanted. This is how many you get.
The orange slices, I still carry in my truck when I have a low. That's what I eat, is the orange slice.
Where do you get them?
You get them anywhere. I get mine at Menards. But
Really?
in my work truck, I carry them right next to the seat in case
I bet your Cracker Barrel would have them. They have those old kind of.
You can get at Bob Evans has them as you check out. You can
really?
Get there.
Okay.
See, I don't remember the orange slices.
I don't either. I don't either, Marilyn.
I remember the coconut with the chocolate white and that, and I also remember those logs that were like had peanut butter inside, but they were like a toasted coconut on the outside. They were crunchy, kind of.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Mm-hmm. And I always thought that's why we looked out for her, because she would always have that candy, and so we we would get so excited.
You guys make me laugh with this stroll down candy memory lane.
But you know what? Let me say another thing about Mother. You know, if as we got older, if we wanted something that was in style, clothes-wise, or a toy or something, she knew she could not afford to buy the exact same thing for us. She would look all over to find something that looked very similar to the outfit that we wanted to make us happy, because whatever we wanted had cost too much. And we were very content with whatever she because it would always be fairly close to the more expensive thing.
Marilyn?
So she was a thrifty shopper.
She was thrifty, but I'll tell you something. I was not happy with one of the choices. I wanted Spalding shoes. Okay, do you remember those?
Yes.
The real Spalding shoes.
Yeah.
I didn't get Spalding shoes. I got something close to it, but I didn't like it. The Spaldings were very expensive, I guess.
Sure.
Yes, they were.
So we always close out the podcast with asking all of our guests this one question. If you could go back and speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell them?
I would say to myself to be more open, ask more questions, and don't be afraid to show your ignorance. You know, particularly talking with my dad. I should have learned more from him.
Yeah. He was probably a tough nut to crack, though, was my guess.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one time, Stephen, he said, I remember this, we were sitting at the kitchen table after dinner talking about stuff, and I was talking about some kind of politics or something, and I said, I read in the paper, and whatever I said. He said, do you believe everything you read in the paper? And I said, well, yeah. He said, well, and then he went on to explain, no, you shouldn't do that. Anyway, that's one of mine.
Sure.
If I had to do it all over again, if I was 20, I wouldn't change a daggone thing. I'm happy with I was positive back at 20, and I'm positive at 70.
Yeah, you are.
You know, I love all my brothers and sisters. Love mom and dad. Had a great life.
I don't know if I would do.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Emily and Richie, I got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
About saying there's 2 or 3 of us that talked an awful lot.
I missed the first part of that question. What?
It was about the 2 or 3. I said, remember when I was saying there was 2 or 3 of us that talked an awful lot?
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Janice, 20-year-old self, what would you say?
Oh gosh.
Keep kicking, girls? That's what you'd say?
I guess I can't. My 20-year-old. I don't know. I don't know. I always felt like I was in charge of getting everything cleaned at the house. That was my duties, to keep people, the rest of mostly the girls, busy. I guess I would have liked to have just taken a little more time for myself, maybe.
So telling yourself not to be afraid to take time for yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. Jackie, what about you?
Well, this is going to sound corny, but I have a few mantras that I always say to myself. And at 20, I would say this one. I see myself and everything I do with the eyes of love.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what I would say to my 20-year-old self.
I like it. Marilyn, what about you?
I would say to myself, just be yourself. Accept yourself as you are, be yourself. Love yourself the way you are. You have to love yourself before you can love other people. That's what I would say to myself.
Nancy?
Oh, goodness sakes.
Remember, we were all in the convent, Marilyn, at 20 years old.
I guess I said to myself at that time, I want to make an impact on the world. I wanted to help others to get better, to improve their lives. I really, really felt that as a calling. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, no, those are great answers. Absolutely. Well, we're just approaching an hour with the podcast. So I want to take a minute just to thank you guys for joining us today and imparting some of your knowledge and wisdom. I know that, like I said, everybody genuinely appreciates everything you do for the family, the things that you've stood for the family, and the things that you've passed on to your own family members themselves. So we'll wrap it up here and let everybody know that you can join us on, 5 Boys in a Business.
Emily, real quick,
on Mondays.
is the check in the mail? Is the check in the mail?
As usual.
Is the check in the mail? Is the check in the mail?
Will be coming.
Oh, okay.
She already mentioned that. She already said you weren't going to get paid.
Just get with your agents. They'll have your money coming. So shortly, at any point in the near future. So
thanks for asking us, Emily.
Yeah. Thanks for watching 5 Boys in a Business.
Your kindness is all we need. Your kindness and love is all we need.
Well, thank you.
Well, Janice, speak for yourself.
Okay.
Thanks, Harrison.
Okay, everybody. We'll wrap it up here for 5 Boys in a Business. We'll see you next time. Thanks,
Love you,
guys.
Emily.
Thank
Richie.
you for inviting us.
Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
having.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.